Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steehn with winnersandwhiners.com. Welcome back to our continuing series as we take a preview of each division in the NFL as far as the win totals go. We looked at the NFC North yesterday, and we're going to take a look at the NFC South today. I'm joined once again by Scott Reichel from statsall.com, and we're bringing in a special guest, one of our fantastic handicappers from winnersandwhiners.com that I will introduce in just a moment. But first, I want to bring you Mr. Scott Reichel. Scott, I took a bad beat in Azerbaijani table tennis last night. I'm not in a very good mood. How are you doing today?
Better than me. I'm kind of upset there was no chess matches for me to examine going in. Finding those handicap data is it's very tough stuff.
There were some big upsets in the world of backgammon, in the world of badminton. I don't want to spoil it.
I can't believe you lost in that soccer match. I mean, all the money came in on – you got a good number on that price. I don't really know what happened there.
Story of my life. And we are joined, as I said earlier, by a fantastic guy and a fantastic handicapper. He is sheltering in place in the great state of Maine. It is the one and only David Hess. David, welcome to virus season. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Just trying to stay safe up here.
Are you keeping your social distance, my friend?
Oh, yeah. Left the house twice within the last 30 days or so. So
outstanding. And how many times would you normally leave in 30 days?
At least twice a week.
Okay. All right. So you are seriously cutting back. And, I find that it hasn't affected my social life a lot. Other than going out to eat a couple, 3 times a week, I'm pretty much living the same life with that huge hole in the middle that we no longer have sports to watch.
Well, you were too busy watching Tiger King for the past week. So
I'm guilty. I watched it. Did you watch it, Scott?
I have not. I've heard some interesting opinions about it. We covered it. I know the comment section at a field day talking about the Tiger King conversation we had. But I don't know. As far as I know, there's some type of rumors or conspiracy theories going on with the ending of the show. But I'm not going to spoil anything. So if you haven't watched it, you can get to it.
And David, we have not had a chance to talk to you about the most exciting news of the day. Have you seen Tiger King on Netflix?
No, I haven't. I'm sorry. I've been watching the International Tiddlywinks finals. So,
it's good. All right, guys. So without further ado, let's take a look at the NFC South. We have a pretty interesting division. It should be a little more exciting than it was last year, as the Saints just kind of ran away and hid. Let's start with the New Orleans Saints. They are we have their win total at 10, and that is seriously juiced to the over at -140. And by the way, we had this conversation yesterday with Scott Reichel and I. I am getting all of my lines from Bet Online, and they are significantly different at many other spots. I know Scott's going to tell us what DraftKings has. As always, the most important takeaway is shop your lines. And by the way, everybody, before we get started, I wanted to ask my viewing audience a quick question, and if you would respond in the comment section. And, of course, leave us comments as well. Would you guys like to see a live broadcast of doing the show? We don't know what topic we'll do. Obviously, something with sports, but we might have a little fun and branch out a little bit. Maybe Scott and I and David. It could be a total wild card. You don't know who we're going to bring in. We could bring in the Tiger King from jail, for all you know. But if you would be interested in seeing a live broadcast, let us know in the comment section. And if you think that's a terrible, stupid idea, then keep that to yourself. No, tell us in the comment section, too. We want to hear whatever you think. If you'd like to see it, wouldn't like to see it, give us a heads up in the comment section. All right, so with that out of the way, let's start with the New Orleans Saints. The number on this is 10, juiced to the over at -140. Saints finished 13-3 last year. They re-signed Drew Brees, and they pretty much locked up Taysom Hill with a first-round tender on him. Scott, get us started. What do you think of the New Orleans Saints? Are they going to repeat down there? Are they going to win more than 10 games?
For me, I'd have to take the over. I know DraftKings has over 10 wins at -110, so there is pretty much no juice attached to it whatsoever. Based on that, I wouldn't take it at -140 if I can get it at -110, but I have to assume the Saints are going to win at least 11 games here. They've dominated the division pretty much in the last couple of years. They brought back a decent portion of the talent that they had, and Breeze, even though he might have lost a step towards the end of the season, he looked pretty abysmal in that playoff game against Minnesota. At the end of the day, it's almost impossible to beat them in the Superdome, and they pretty much win almost every home game every single season. I'm still not sold on Atlanta. Tampa Bay, we're going to get to in a second, but I feel like Scott and I are both a little bit skeptical of how well they're going to perform this season. And Carolina should be one of the worst teams in the league. I know they got Bridgewater, but overall they lost a lot of talent. So based on that, I think New Orleans should win at least 11 games here. So I got to side with the over.
Dave, what say you? The Saints brought in Malcolm Jenkins from Philadelphia to help shore up the defensive backfield. Is bringing in a safety, re-signing Drew Brees, and keeping Taysom Hill on your team. Is that going to be enough to guarantee the Saints over 10 wins? How you feeling?
I think so. I agree with Scott. The Saints their defense is lacked, but bringing in a safety should help. They have dominated the division, 5-1 last year, and I think they're going to go 5-1 this year. I think their only loss in the division is going to be at Tampa Bay. They also brought in Emmanuel Sanders. That means Michael Thomas shouldn't have to catch 149 passes this year. The offense is just going to be awesome once again, and with an improved defense, the schedule isn't that tough for them. I can't see how they don't win 11 games in this season.
I'm with you. I think anytime, and Scott and I, we had this with yesterday when we did the NFC North. When you start looking at them, you don't see a way that they really don't go 5-1 in the division, with the only possible loss coming at Tampa Bay. And speaking of Tampa Bay, let's get to the Bucs, because they've got an interesting number on them. They've got, the number is 9 for the wins for the Tampa Bay Bucs after going 7-9 last season. And it is juiced to the over on Bet Online at -125 to the over. I guess, as you guys probably know, they had a big quarterback signing. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed Blaine Gabbert. Once again, they brought him back to back up. No, of course, they brought in Tom Brady, 2 years, $50 million for TB12. The first question is he going to be number 12? Are we able to get? They're going to be able to get that number from him. Dave, what do you think? Are they going to hold out? I can't remember who on the team has 12, but I bet they're in for a pretty good payday from Tom.
Actually, one of the players on the team, I think he relinquished number 12 to give to Tom.
It was Godwin.
It was Godwin. That's right. It was.
Yeah.
And he gave it up. Did they say what he got for it?
No, they didn't.
He got the number 14, but there was no monetary value attached to it, at least publicly. I'm sure it might have been disclosed privately. But as far as I know, I think they interviewed him about it, and he said, Brady's the greatest of all time. I'll give him whatever he wants.
Very nice. All right, Dave. So 9 wins for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Are you feeling it? Have you got creamsicle fever, buddy? Are you feeling the umber there?
It's hard to go against Brady. I mean, Jameis Winston, for one thing, the Bucs won't have 30 interceptions like they did last year.
That seems unlikely.
Yeah, Brady, they upped their point average from 396 to 458 last year, and they could jump this year again. Bruce Arians is an offensive minded coach, and he is an excellent coach. And Tom Brady is, being up here in Maine, I'm not a fan of Tom Brady because he always beats me. But you can't go against him. He's really one of the greatest of all time. But it's 9 wins. The team that was 7-9 last year, is he enough to push them over the 9 wins? I'm gonna not take a pass, but I think they're gonna land right on 9 wins.
That's reasonable. Now, Scott, everybody talks about the offense with Tom Brady and everything like that. But this Bucs unit, they were number 1 in the NFL last year against the rush, and they brought a lot of guys back. They re-signed Ndamukong Suh. They brought back Jason Pierre-Paul, and they brought in cornerback Ryan Smith. How's that Bucs defense? Are they going to be able to hold up their end? Are this going to be a surprise team down there in the South?
Well, I feel like the defense should perform a little bit better naturally because they won't have to deal with really poor field position due to some turnovers on offense. So I expect them to play a little bit better. It's always difficult, and some of the stats are inflated when you look at teams and say, well, they gave up 20x points per game, but yet the opponent had one drive every game starting at the 30-yard line on either side of the ball. So it's kind of an unfair way to look at it. I definitely think that with Brady's history of being relatively, I'd say, smart with the football, I think that definitely should help out the defense. However, DraftKings does have 9.5 actually instead of 9 at -110. I personally like the under there. I think that Tampa Bay will be improved, but at the end of the day, I just don't see this team winning 10 games. I know that against the run, they were really good, But Tampa Bay also had the third worst pass defense in the entire league. And in a passing league, for the most part, I don't really trust the secondary whatsoever. I know that bringing back Sue definitely helps with the defensive front, and I know that the linebacking core is pretty good as well. But as a whole, I think Tampa Bay should be able to potentially win 9 games as a ceiling. But I feel like there's just so many question marks with regard to Brady transitioning to a new system. We talked about it yesterday with the coronavirus and how that might impact the actual time that players have to prepare for new systems and to practice with their new teammates. I think that definitely should play a factor. For me, I think Tampa Bay will look better, but at the end of the day, I still have to think that this team will win a maximum of 9 games. So I'm kind of with David there. I think they'll go 9-7, and for that reason, I like the under 9.5.
All right, I'm going to give you my first really hot take of the day. Tom Brady's done. I think he is absolutely finished as a viable quarterback. And go ahead and mark this on the video, Mr. Producer, because this is going to be the spot where we come back as Tom Brady wins the Super Bowl and hoists it down there in Tampa.
The extremely cold takes page on Twitter. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yep. I don't think he has the arm strength anymore. I don't think he has the accuracy. We'll see what happens. We're going to find out if it was the chicken or the egg. We're going to find out if it was Tom or if it was the people around him. And I have a feeling Tom Brady is destined to a season of mediocrity at best. I think the ceiling for this team, I think that the absolute ceiling is 9 wins. I see him more as a repeating 7-9 or 8-8 down there in the NFC South. So that's my thought. So we got 2 guys on 9. I'm under 9, and if you can get the under 9.5, especially at -110, my official play on that is jump with both feet. All right. So now we're going to go ahead.
One thing about that, the rushing, they were first in the league against the rush, but not many teams ran against them. I don't.
And that's a great point, Dave. That is always the danger when you look at a stat like that. When you have a team that's number 1 against the run, and you go, well, why would anybody run against them when you can throw for 9,000 yards?
Yeah,
that's a legitimate point. As long as they didn't get sacked by Shaq Barrett, who led the NFL with 19.5 sacks, as long as they were able to get time, throw the ball, that was a very successful strategy against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's absolutely true. However, I will tell you, as far as the rushing defense goes, they were number 1 as far as yards given up per game, but they were top 5 yards per rush. So that rushing defense, it still is a very good unit. So normally I would say absolutely, Dave, you're correct. But I will say you're correct with a caveat. It still is a very good rushing defense, as was evidenced by their yards per rush. So, all right. But great point. And that's always something you have to look at. When one team excels in one area, you have to look at why. And many times with defensive stats especially, it's because the other team has their way with them in the other aspect of the game. The great rushing defenses often have horrible, horrible pass defenses. Fantastic point, Dave. Thanks for bringing it up. And Dave, let's tell me what you think about the Falcons at 7.5. I got them juiced to the over at -125. Falcons went 7-9 last year. So basically, Vegas is saying you got about a 6-5, about a 7-6 shot at them winning one more game. Is that going to happen down there in Atlanta?
I was really looking at this game before the show, and I don't see it happening. I'm taking the under here. They brought in Todd Gurley at running back to help with one of the worst rushing attacks in the league, and they have one of the best passing teams in the league, but it's still the defense is still not there. Plus, I mean, looking at the schedule, they got road games against the Vikings, Chiefs, Packers, Cowboys, Saints, and Buccaneers. They have Chargers also and the Panthers. They'll probably win the game against the Panthers, but I'm not so sure about the Chargers, which means they're going to go 1-7 on the road probably. And that means that they have to go 7-1 at home, and they have not an easy schedule at home either. It's very hard to see them take, they've had they went 7-9 last year.
Right.
4-1 in their final 5 games. And it's that road schedule just scares me. I just cannot go, take them to win 8 games with that road schedule that they have coming up.
I agree with that. Scott, are you a Dante Fowler believer? Was last year his breakthrough, or was it an aberration? Because the The Falcons think he's going to be a major part. They gave him 3 years, $48 million, with I believe $33 million guaranteed. Is that going to work out for them?
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll definitely be a lot more productive than Vic Beasley was for them last season. So it's kind of a substitute. I mean, that also has to do with the Gurley addition. Even though they got Gurley, they also lost Devontae Freeman. So they're pretty much using him as a sub. Now, you made a bold call about Brady being done. I'm going to make a relatively lukewarm – I don't even know if it's lukewarm anymore. I think Gurley's done.
Yeah.
There's nothing that shows to me, based on last season, that he really has much in the tank. The Rams will probably go down. People might forget about it, but I think that contract they gave Gurley is one of the worst contracts of all time. They had to cut him roughly a year after just to show how bad it was. And any time that you have a running back, which is already a very volatile position, and he already has arthritis in one of his knees, I don't really see him getting better at any point. I think Freeman is a better running back than Gurley, so I think that they actually downgraded there. Now, of course, Gurley made himself known in college at Georgia, so it's kind of a homecoming for him there. But at the end of the day, I don't really think Gurley – I think Gurley's a downgrade from Freeman, and I think Matt Ryan, we covered it yesterday, I still think he's a little bit overrated with the one outlier MVP season. I think he's been I say he's been slightly above average for most of his career, but he keeps getting older, and I see him throw way too many interceptions every year in the red zone, and it just really bothers me from that perspective. The defense, I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass. I do think they got better with Fowler over Beasley. They've had a ton of injuries over the last couple of seasons, especially to their secondary with Keanu Neal, who's been injured for the last couple of years. But they also lost Desmond Trufant, who was the number one corner. And for that reason, I think Atlanta probably should have moved on from Dan Quinn during the offseason. I know that they were great down the stretch, but there's a big difference between being good in garbage time and being good in meaningful games. And I personally think Atlanta will underachieve once again. I think they're going to go 7-9 or 6-10, so I got to take the under.
Yeah, I see regression there instead of improvement for over that 7-9. And I know we have a lot of NFL general managers that listen to the show on a regular basis. So he said with tongue slightly in cheek, I'm going to give them a piece of advice, and I want you guys all to listen to this very carefully, NFL GMs. Stop overpaying for running backs, all right? There is no path to success given a running back $15 to $20 million a year. Stop doing it. Spend that money in other places. I can't believe that the NFL has become this, but it has. Running backs are not integral parts of offenses anymore. They are very interchangeable, and there's stop spending high draft picks and stop spending high dollars on running backs. You guys agree with that?
Especially in a passing league.
Yes, absolutely. You need somebody with some hands out of the backfield. I'll tell you what's more important almost than the ability to run is the ability to pass block. Andy Reid is a big believer that in Kansas City, that if you can't block, you can't play. And you have to be able to stick in there. You have to be able to chip and then drift out in the flat. You have to do a lot of different things that don't involve classic running back skills. Stop overpaying for running backs. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, we're about to get into this because Carolina's up next. I think the one running back that you could afford to pay a ton of money would be McCaffrey, just because of the fact that he's an elite level running back and he's one of the best receivers in the entire league, let alone at his position. I think that he's just so versatile in so many different ways. And he's also a decent blocker, but I don't know why you'd ever tell McCaffrey to block, especially on that team. But for the most part, I agree. I mean, running backs are kind of a dying breed at this point in the NFL.
You know, and I would agree with you, except then I would ask the question, well, how'd the Panthers do last year with McCaffrey?
Well, who was their quarterback?
Oh, okay. But that's legit. So we're going to find out. And let's go right into the Panthers. They've got their total at 5.5. They went 5-11 last year. So the odds makers think there'll be one game of improvement. That's what they're putting that on it. And we've got that slightly juiced to the over at -120. Scott, Teddy Bridgewater, is that the answer? 3 years, $63 million, buddy. That's just about elite quarterback money right there.
Well, I don't even know what elite quarterback money is anymore based on the growing marketplace. But as a whole,
Patrick Mahomes is going to let you know. You're going to find.
They should just give him a key to the city and 50%, stake in the ownership because he should be there for the rest of his career. But for Carolina, I actually do like the acquisition of Bridgewater. I think he was by far the best quarterback on the market during the free agency period. Not including Breeze, because he was pretty much a given to re-sign. But I do think he's an improvement over the various quarterbacks Carolina tried to throw out there last year. When you're throwing Will Greer out there to end the season, I don't really think you're poised for much success. But as a whole, I think the Kuechly retirement is just too big of a loss there. I mean, we're not even talking about one of the best linebackers in the league. We're talking about one of the best linebackers in my lifetime. I mean, he was that good at his position. And I think him just quarterbacking that defense and his voice no longer being there is going to be a huge thing for Carolina to overcome. And I'm very skeptical of it. They brought in Robbie Anderson. They brought in some weapons. But as a whole, I think this team's going to win 4 games. I think this is going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I hope Bridgewater can stay healthy, which is also a concern, as he had some injury issues earlier on in his career. But he was great with New Orleans last year. I do like him. But at the end of the day, I think Carolina's defense is going to take a step back. And I'm still not really sold on an offensive line, which got Cam Newton killed pretty much his entire career in Carolina. So for me, I think Carolina will definitely come in last in this division. Tampa Bay getting better also reduces the potential of, free wins, so to speak, in that division.
Right.
But for me, I think this team's going to be terrible. I got to take the under.
Dave, Teddy Bridgewater, and they brought in Robbie Anderson. They also brought in Pharaoh Cooper, Seth Roberts, running 3 wide receivers. Anything there to get you excited about the Carolina Panthers? Is it a new day in Carolina, or is like Scott said, is that Luke Kuechly retirement just too big of a hurdle to overcome to even think about them being even a mediocre football team?
Well, I agree. I'm taking the under. I think they can get to 5 wins, but not 6. Kuechly, the Kuechly retirement is really huge for that defense, and the offense should be improved, especially with a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater, who has proven to be a winner in the past. Yeah, he went 5-0 with New Orleans last year, but he also had a lot better talent in that offense than the Panthers do.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Greg Olsen, that's another loss. Tight end Greg Olsen.
Absolutely, we didn't touch on that. One of the probably top 10 tight ends of certainly this century, I would say. Is that?
Yeah, he's now with Seattle, so that's a big loss. You have a new coach coming in, a new quarterback coming in. They've lost some talent on both sides of the ball, and and as Scott said, the Teddy Bridgewater, he's not exactly non-fragile. He can get hurt, and if he goes down, then this team is totally done.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dave, I don't know if you listened yesterday. I'm sure you did, but Scott talked about brought up a great point about the impact that the coronavirus has on the ability of these teams that are integrating new systems, new players, new offensive coordinators, new head coaches. It's going to compress the preseason, and it's going to limit the ability to get these new offenses in place, get the personnel familiar with each other. A lot of the OTAs obviously aren't going to happen. So I think a pretty good strategy would be to look for teams that are bringing in new systems, maybe play the under on the win totals, and look at your teams on the other side of the coin that have consistent systems in place that they run year after year with the same personnel, and maybe tend to shade those to the over. What do you think, Dave? A good strategy?
Yeah, that is a good strategy. That was definitely one of my thoughts with the new coaching staff coming in. A lot of times you look at that, things change, for the players. They got to learn a whole new system, and they're not going to have, the extra time to do it this year because of the coronavirus.
Absolutely.
Well, I actually just wanted to touch on one more thing. Even with the new offensive coordinator, with Joe Brady, who just did wonderful things at LSU, we have to acknowledge that there probably will be a drop-off in production based on the fact that, A, the talent level on the opposing defenses will be higher. B, instead of having the number 1 overall pick in the Heisman Trophy winner in Joe Burrow, along with Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, now you have Robbie Anderson, Seth Roberts, and kick return specialist Pharaoh Cooper.
Yeah,
they got DJ Moore.
Pharaoh Cooper in as well, right?
Yeah, DJ Moore is good, but realistically, in addition to all the immediate turnover with the lack of preparation time, you're going to have such a huge talent drop-off that I think that the offense could look like a disaster in year 1 before it finally gets going in year 2, year 3.
With a normal team, that would be a pretty crazy statement, Scott, to say that you're going from your college team to an NFL team.
I know,
An
but
incredible drop off
you
in
have to
talent.
factor that in because people might just assume, oh, they're just going to throw the ball around like nobody's business and they're going to look like Dan Fouts with the Chargers back in the day. I don't see that happening. I think there's definitely going to be some growing pains with the system, and the lack of preparation will make it worse. So I really don't know what Carolina does well besides have an elite level pass catching running back in garbage time.
Well, they make a really ridiculously bad barbecue sauce that they claim is good. It's mayonnaise. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a beautiful area, a beautiful part of the country. But other than that, yeah, I don't know what they do well either.
By the way, so just to make sure, did we agree on all 4 teams, or did we have any slight disagreement?
I don't think we did. That's what I was just gonna review here as we were getting ready here to sign off. So let's cover these one more time for everybody in case you're just catching up. We've all agreed the Panthers will not win 5.5 games. The Falcons, we agree that they will not win 7.5 games. We were kind of split a little bit on the Bucs. You guys thought they'd be around 9, which is the number. You can get it at 9.5. We all thought under 9.5 was a good play. I thought they were going to do a little worse than that. I'm not convinced Brady has much left in the tank, as I pointed them more towards 7-9 or 8-8. So that was probably as close as we got to a disagreement. We all agreed that the New Orleans Saints are still the cream of the crop in the NFC South and should have no problem at all winning over 10 games. Is that pretty much jibe with what you guys were thinking?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So there you have it, everybody. I wanted to say thanks for joining us. As always, please drop us a comment. Let us know you're out there. I know these are hard times. We're all waiting for sports to come back. We appreciate everybody hanging with us, everybody's patient. We're all trying to have a little fun here and do what we can. We'll be back tomorrow to do the NFC. Let's go the NFC East tomorrow. We'll save the conference champions for the last NFC show. And I want to thank my guests here today, of course, the one and only David Hess, keeping it real, keeping it safe up there in Maine. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you on, man. I miss the old podcast days.
Baseball season. We always
doing
had
baseball
some fun.
season with you and Ben and everything. So kind of brought back some memories. Appreciate you stopping by. And Scotty, as always, my partner in crime over there at statsalt.com. And when we get back up and running there, when sports start, make sure you get by and check out Scott over there on the YouTube channel at statsalt.com. It's always kind of the sometimes the forgotten little brother. StatSalt got a lot of great handicappers. And if you like deep dives into games, you'll find them no better and no deeper than Scott Reichel over at StatSalt on the YouTube channel. Scott, thanks for joining us as always.
Yep, no problem. Thank you for having me. It's always nice to break down upcoming NFL matchups and stuff like that. Some of it's still uncertain because of the draft and who these teams might be potentially adding to their rosters. But it's nice to, at least in these times, to discuss some level of normalcy by going into all the different teams in the NFL.
Agreed. It is kind of a touchstone of normal, just as so many things are crazy in the world right now. It does feel like just for, that 30-minute time that we're kind of just getting back to normal. So appreciate you guys being there. Appreciate, as always, everybody listening to us. Drop us a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. Once again, if you want to see us do it live, give us the old thumbs up. Let us know that you'd like to see a live show, and we'd be happy to put that together. All right. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for David Hess, thanks for tuning in. You guys take care. Be safe. Stay home. And, stay well. We'll see you next time. Take care.